What is going on, guys? The Inside the Booth podcast, and today we're talking about the New York Yankees trade deadline and why I think they are one of the biggest winners of the trade deadline. Because you look at the moves that they made and what they had to do, they checked all the boxes of a great move, right? They got bullpen with Duvall, Bednar, Jake Bird, a bunch of guys to help out this bullpen, and you gotta love the moves. And what you had to give up. You didn't really have to give up something too, like, oh my gosh, we gave up that prospect for that player. No, this was not a San Diego Padres situation where you give up the number 3 prospect in all of baseball to get a Mason Miller. The Yankees and Padres were talking about a Mason Miller trade. The Yankees and Padres were talking about a Mason Miller trade. It was going to come down to one of those teams, it looked like. But the Yankees don't have the capital that the Padres have, and clearly they weren't going to give us a Spencer Jones for Mason Miller. They weren't going to give up a George Lombard for Mason Miller. Now, I would have loved Mason Miller, don't get me wrong, but getting David Bednar was the right move. David Bednar has been fantastic this season, and he's a guy that I want closing games for this team and shutting teams down, and that's what David Bednar has done this season. So let's get into David Bednar to start off this podcast and why this was the right move. And you look at the deal that they made, didn't have to give up too much to get him. And the thing is that the Yankees gave up 0 top 100 prospects. No George Lombard, no Spencer Jones, none of those guys. So that's what I really do like about this move. And the thing is with David Bednar, is not only can he be your setup guy, 7th inning, 8th inning guy, he can also close games. I mean, he has been perfect closing out games for the Pirates this season for a team that isn't very good. David Bednar has been fantastic for this team. And, we look at all the numbers. I'll have his Baseball Savant on the screen for sure, so you see all of those advanced metrics. But from May 24th to July 26th, David Bednar has allowed 0 runs, a big goose egg. And that's fantastic because we have been stressing out so much about either Devin Williams blowing the game or, a late night game that gets a little funky against a divisional opponent or any of that. And we need a guy that is going to close down games. And that is what David Bednar is going to do. He's a guy that can get you high leverage outs. And overall, I mean, he is the guy that I want closing out games like every game. I mean, you obviously can make him a setup guy, but I want David Bednar being the guy that is going to come out of that bullpen in the 9th inning pretty much 9 times out of 10. Unless he is, gassed or anything and he does need an off day. Regardless, over 2 months without allowing a run is what you want to sign up for. And, we look at all of the names, all of the relievers this year that have at least a 12 Ks per 9, a walks per 9 of below 2.5, and a home runs per 9 below 0.5. The only pitcher in baseball is David Bednar. So that's another huge component that probably the Yankees looked at. Like, this guy is dominated, and we want this guy on our pen, and we want this guy closing out postseason games and winning games in your division. When you play against teams in your division, you have to win games, and the Yankees haven't done that this season. They've been terrible against the AL East, so, with the acquisition of David Bednar, he is going to be a huge, huge piece to this team. And like I said before, if David Bednar is your setup guy to start off his Yankee campaign, that's okay, because I still believe in the guys that are, we're currently on the team, like Weaver and Williams. I do think they can get the job done. It's just going to be a little shaky, right? With Devin Williams, things get a little shaky. He allows a lot of hits, and then that gets into offensive, momentum for the opposing team. That leads to runs, and it leads to the Yankees being on the edge of their seat, and they're like, oh, we're doing this again. We're doing this again, Devin. So, I mean, yeah. But regardless, going from Weaver to Williams to Bednar will be fantastic, or, Weaver to Bednar to Williams, something like that. I don't think Williams is going to be the full-time closer. I don't. I know Aaron Boone said that in an interview of, with all the new acquisitions that Brian Cashman made, who is going to be the closer. He went out and said David Williams is going to be the guy. I don't think that. I really don't. I think they're going to go to David Bednar. At least that would be the smart move. But, I mean, getting more into more of the moves, was this the craziest deadline that we've seen Brian Cashman pull off in recent years? I mean, we've looked at the past deadlines. I don't think they've been nearly as hyped up as this, in my opinion, just because, I mean, you address the biggest need, and it's the bullpen, and it's the defense. So you get Caballero, who could play good defense. You get McMahon, who could play good defense. Austin Slater can hit good against lefties, coming off the bench. David Bednar can close out games. Jake Bird is a bit of a project, but I do think in the long run that Matt Blake can help him. Camilo Duval, he has nasty stuff. He throws hard. I think he could be a great move for this team. So I do think it's one of their better deadlines they've had in the last recent years, and they got the moves that they needed to get. You needed bullpen, you addressed bullpen. You needed some depth, you got depth with Jose Caballero and Austin Slater. Ryan McMahon is your third baseman. I love the move for Ryan McMahon. And he's had a solid start so far, with the New York Yankees, because seeing Oswald Peraza playing basically every day was not fun to watch. 3 home runs on the year. The best thing he could do is defend, but the Yankees did need a bit of an offensive boost with Ryan McMahon, and it's not like, you're sacrificing some offense for bad defense. No. Ryan McMahon, he plays great defense at third base. I mean, his first game, against the Phillies? He had a great diving play, robbed Harper of a hit too in that series. So Ryan McMahon can steal you out at third base. And third base, the Yankees had issues at third base. Whether it was playing Jazz Chisholm, who had a negative outs above average at third base, or it was slotting in Oswald Peraza. You got Jazz at second, you got Volpe at short, you got Goldie/Rice at first, and of course you got McMahon at third, and then of course Austin Wells behind the plate. So not only does McMahon fit well into this team, but he's hit well. Post All-Star, he's hitting .350 with an OPS of above 1, a 1.144, and like I said, he plays fantastic defense. But Ryan McMahon, it seems like he is the right move, right? I know I even said it that Eugenio Suarez should be at the top of the trade deadline board for the Yankees. It seems like Ryan McMahon might be the better fit because this team does need more defense and does need better defense. Now, Eugenio Suarez is probably the better bat. I think we can agree on that fully. But I think with adding McMahon's defense, it helps the Yankees win games and helps them overall. But let's get into another player. Let's get into Jake Bird a bit, a guy that I did want a while ago. I forgot what video it was that I did think Jake Bird could be a potential trade piece for the Yankees. So the Yankees not only get one Colorado Rocky with Ryan McMahon, their third baseman, but they do steal a reliever in Jake Bird. And I do think this is going to be one of Matt Blake's projects. Because Jake Bird, you look at the statistics, they haven't been phenomenal. But you do see some of the underlying metrics, and you do see that this guy can have a positive bounce back. And I think with a good pitching coach and a good, talker in Matt Blake, I think this can be a very solid move for the team. Now, the only thing I do have for this bullpen is that, outside of Tim Hill, where are the lefties? But we will get into that later. His expected ERA is a 3.49, so, that's not terrible. So you could say that in a world that Jake Bird has gotten unlucky, but you do look at the monthly recap. The monthly recap of Jake Bird. He had a 1.08 ERA in April. He had a 2.70 ERA in May, a 4.91 ERA in June, and then a horrific 19 1.89 ERA in the month of July. So like I said, project in the making, right? Jake Bird, who I think can be a good pitcher for this team. He's shown, that he can pitch well in in a month. Like, he pitched well in April, he pitched well in May. June and July kind of got away from him. I don't know if it's because he's playing against the Rockies. I don't really know. But, I mean, we've seen with McMahon, he's batting .350 already with the new addition from a new team. And sometimes players just need a new place, a new home. And that's what Jake Bird has. He's got a new home in New York. But let's get to another one of my favorite moves, a late move. It was at the dying minutes. Brian Cashman made a phone call to the San Francisco Giants, and they got Camilo Doval, a late snag, a hard throwing reliever, has nasty stuff. Those are cutter, slider, and a sinker. The sinker has gotten hit hard. Batters are batting .300 against his sinker, but they're batting under 230 against his slider and cutter. So expect a lot more sliders and cutters. And as a reliever, you can rely on two pitches. It does get a little funky when things get a little way, and you want to maybe try and throw a sinker to have the pitcher off guard, and maybe they do that. But I think Matt Blake is the perfect fit for a lot of these guys that they acquired, right? Guys that may not have the ERA of below 3 outside of Bednar, but these guys have stuff that if they get the right whisperer and the right coach, Matt Blake can fix them. I mean, Matt Blake fixed Tim Hill, who I believe had an ERA of 6. And Tim Hill has been one of the Yankees' best relievers this season. And last year he was phenomenal. Jose Caballero, good depth, runs the bases real well, steals a ton of bases. So, I mean, I'm imagining a situation where Giancarlo Stanton gets on. They need to steal some bases. It's late in the game. And Stanton gets removed. And Caballero comes off the bench and steals a few bags for the team. The Yankees do have speed with Volpe and Chaz Chisholm and Dominguez as well. Cody Bellinger's got some legs as well, who's had a phenomenal season, Cody Bellinger. But I do like the move. I do. It is just a depth piece, and he does run the bases well. Maybe he could teach a few of these Yankees how to run the bases, because sometimes the Yankees get into a bit of a funk when it comes to running the bases. But I know everyone wants to hear my overall overall trade deadline grade for this team. And I get it. Maybe it's a bit greedy, but I do have them as a B+. I think that's fair. I do think they're one of the winners at the trade deadline for sure. A few other teams to name. Honestly, the New York Mets, crosstown rival, they had a great deadline with getting Ryan Helsley, Tyler Rogers. They had a good deadline as well. Acquired Cedric Mullins. Hasn't had the great year, but regardless. Mets had a good deadline. Padres, you got Mason Miller. You already added to an elite bullpen. Now you get Mason Miller, so they easily have the best bullpen in baseball. But the Yankees, I think, are going to be right there. I do. I think with all these additions, and I think this is going to start a new win streak. I really do. With the moves that they made, the bullpen acquisitions, hopefully they get better defensively. And that includes, I don't like to call people out, but I already know, you never mentioned Anthony Volpe. Where's Anthony Volpe, Vin? Anthony Volpe does need to be better. He does. So there you go. Anthony Volpe does need to be better defensively. The team overall needs to be better defensively. But, of course, a lot of baseball to be played. I do think we are going to get a better version. Hopefully, with all these moves, you'd think the Yankees get better from this. I do believe they will. But, overall, you're also getting Luis Gil back. So that's another update. He'll be pitching against the Miami Marlins on Sunday, so that should be cool. Had a good, rehab start recently. I think he racked up 7 Ks, so that's good. So your ideal starting rotation that I would like would be Fried, Rodon, Heel, Warren, Schlittler. I don't want Marcus Stroman starting. I really don't. That's why I do give it a B+. If they did add a starter, like an Adrian Hauser or somebody, That would have been nice. But overall, I mean, you got to be very pleased with the deadline that the Yankees had. Brian Cashman did a phenomenal job. One of his better deadlines recently. Props to Brian Cashman. He did fantastic. Gives Aaron Boone a ton of leverage now and tons of decisions. If they want to go Duvall this game, or they want to go Bednar, they want to go Luke Weaver. So like they have a lot of options now to really improve this bullpen ERA, because it's been abysmal in the month of July, June. It's been rough. But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this podcast. Remember, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button. The YouTube shorts, the YouTube videos, they're getting better, and I'm really excited for this, for the second half. Sorry, couldn't speak that out. But the second half, the real second half, post-deadline, it's time to start winning games. Let's take back this division, man. We're 4 games out or something like that. It can be done. But you got to go on a hot streak, and you got to start playing good baseball. But that's going to do it for this video. Leave a like, leave a follow, and of course, let's go Yankees.